Welcome or welcome back to the Lockwood Chronicles. My name is Larissa, and today we are going over my April reading wrap-up. 9 books in April. I feel like I wasn't reading at my normal pace. Out of those 9 books, 3 were off of my Kindle, 3 were audiobooks, and 3 were physical books. I just didn't feel like I read that much. My total page count was 4,080, and my average rating was 4.03. It was a good reading month. Oh yeah, lavender vanilla chai tea latte. And I made it warm because I am so cold. It has been so gloomy and cloudy and rainy, and my house is already freezing, but when the sun isn't heating it up, it is even more cold, and I'm so cold. Let's start with a reread. It was I'm part of a book club. This was the first month I was in the book club, so it was a book that I had already read, and it was so fun. I'm just so happy to be participating in a book club, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. Read The One by John Mars. So I read this when I believe it first came out on my Kindle, and absolutely loved it. I really did think that it was like the Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren, like more of a rom-com thing. It was not. It is the negative side effects and how society reacts to finding your DNA match. You follow a lot of different characters. I forget how many couples that you follow, but 4 or 5. It feels like a lot. There is a lot that happens with each individual things. It shows how people can take advantage of this. It shows, is it actually accurate, or just the knowledge of you knowing you have a DNA match? Is it actually accurate to that DNA match? Also, like, what happens when your DNA match is not a good person, such as we follow a couple that one is a police officer. Her DNA match is a serial killer who she's trying to catch. That POV was probably my favorite to follow, and it still was on the reread as well. How people can manipulate you so easily because of this extra security of they're my person, they can't be bad because I'm not a bad person. It's one of my favorite thrillers. It's not scary by any means, but it's definitely one of my favorites, and I absolutely love it. Don't bother with the TV show. It was absolutely horrible. I really hate that show. Oh, I don't have any of these books, but I'm going to talk about them all as one. I read them on my Kindle, and that is Saving 6, Redeeming 6, and Taming 7. These are all by Cho Walsh. They are part of the Boys of Tommen series. It takes place in Ireland in around like 2004, 2005. Saving 6 and Redeeming 6 follows Joey and Aoife, and Taming 7 follows Gibbsy and Claire, and that one's the new release. And these books are super chunky, but you just want to fly through them. They're so easy to get into. Binding and Keeping 13, I absolutely flew through them. They were amazing. Please look at the trigger warnings and take them very seriously, because these are not light reads. They are marketed as YA, or like more new adult, because it takes place at a high school. These are not light topics that this follows. And I love Joey and Aoife. Aoife is amazing. I love her so much, and the fact that we get to see more of Joey's struggles in Saving and Redeeming 6, it was heartbreaking. It was really difficult to just see someone with like so much potential, but just being struck down again and again and again due to the circumstances of his life, and the support that Aoife allows him to have, and the safety and security, but also like wanting better for him. And Taming 7, like I said, follows Gibbsy and Claire. I did a partial reading vlog to this. This one I struggled with. I was really looking forward to Gibbsy and Claire's story. Claire is definitely the bubbly sunshine girly, and Gibbsy is also just like the comedic sunshine boy. Like, they're just 2 golden retrievers. They're so cute. Gibbsy has a couple secrets that he's been harboring that are very, very difficult for him to talk about, and he doesn't want to. Claire has a very black and white moral compass. There's not much gray area. Some of the circumstances in this book made me so angry with how Claire handled situations. I was very upset with how she handled a lot of situations. When someone goes to you in confidence, or you find something out about somebody, you need to respect their wishes and be a support system to them, and not go in guns a-blazing or out them when they are not ready. I get it, she's a teenager and life has not offered her the same experiences as I can see, because I feel like I would have had similar thoughts growing up too, but with life and how I've learned and interacted with people, the way she handled things was not appropriate, and it really made me mad. However, I really do love them as a couple and can't wait to see what is up with all the boys of Toman in the remaining books. I don't think we're getting another Gibbsy and Claire POV. I think they're only down to one book per couple now, is rumor has it, so I'm not really sure. Abby Jimenez's Just for the Summer, which is a new release. I did get this one from Book of the Month. I didn't pre-order it because I was fingers crossed hoping that Book of the Month would release it because all her other ones have been. So I am very, very pleased with this book. This is following Justin and oh gosh, Emma. Justin is top tier book boyfriend. He is so great that he is a figment of imagination. This boy, if somebody did the things that he did, I would be astounded. Like, he is such a caring individual, and this whole premise was Justin is writing on the Am I the Asshole Reddit thread. His best friend is moving out to be with his girlfriend, fiance, or whatever, leaving Justin in the lurch to cover rent. So Justin ends up getting this really dingy studio apartment, and there's a huge billboard outside about the Toilet King, and it takes up his entire view. So he gets his dog and names his dog after his best friend. And this dog is ugly, scruffiest little dog from the shelter that you can find, and named it after his best friend. And also Justin has the additional bonus of being the person, kind of like a good luck Chuck situation, where the woman that he dates, they do a couple things, like go out a few times, there's a certain criteria that happens, and then when they break it off, the girl finds her forever person right after dating him, and it's happened to him all the time. And that's where Emma adds her 2 cents and messages him and is like, oh, same thing happens to me, and they just start chatting over the internet and bonding and stuff. And she's a traveling nurse with her best friend. Justin and her kind of like, should we just date for the summer and do all of these things and hopefully cancel out our curse so that the next person we meet will be the one? And that's where our story goes. I also love that this takes place in the Twin Cities because that's where I know a lot of things, and I have so many summer activities now that I really want to do. I've been to so many of the places that are talked about in this book, and I love having that awareness, and I just love when books are based in the area that I'm in. It makes me so happy. Abby Jimenez's books, they offer more than just like a cutesy little romance. There is depth to them. There are circumstances and situations that are sometimes difficult to deal with too, so just be cautious with that. Emma is an avoidant attachment style. Interesting to see that because I don't feel like I see a lot of represented avoidant attachment styles as females. It was a really great read. I highly recommend it. Going into summer, like definitely getting into these warmer months, perfect book to read in the spring, summertime, just to start getting all those good feels for it. Which one do I want to talk about now? Oh, then we have In A Millennial by Kate Kennedy. I am a millennial, so therefore I related to a lot of this book, even though she is a little bit more of an elder millennial. This book was just very nostalgic about growing up in the 90s and early 2000s and all the advances and changes in technology and pop culture and how that influenced so much of our life and like the big points in that. And also just how it felt being a girl in that time frame and all the and all of the things that come with it, all the insecurities, all of the feeling like you're behind, feeling like you're not fitting in. I feel like growing up as a millennial, and specifically a millennial girl, there were a lot of pressures that were put on us to be like other girls, but also be individual, but also be pretty, but also sporty, but also it was a weird time because you wanted to fit in so badly. And now being an individual is so revered and respected, and everybody having their own identity. It's divided into parts, kind of like early girlhood years, teenage like college-y years, and then as a millennial adult woman, that I just related to a lot of it so much, and everything that had to do with it I loved it, and I listened to the audiobook for this. It was amazing. Kate Kennedy narrated it herself. It was beautiful, and I love it. I definitely want to get the hardcover or like the actual physical copy and go back and annotate. Definitely really enjoyed that one. And then the next book that I read was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This is my first Lauren Asher, and I'm just so happy, and I knew that I would love her, so I don't know why I kept putting it off. This is part of the Dreamland Billionaire series. This is the first book in that series, and this is regarding Rowan and Zara. It's dual POV, workplace romance, grumpy sunshine, all of that good stuff. So Dreamland is pretty much Disney World. This takes place in Florida at that theme park, and this is more of like behind the scenes of how it operates, as well as like Rowan, his grandfather, is the one that owns majority of the Dreamland. However, his grandfather passes away, and in his will he leaves tasks for his 3 grandsons to complete in order to get their shares of Dreamland. Rowan sets off on his task, hires Zara after she drunkenly submits her application to be a part of like the creative process crew on new rides, new events, new everything like that. Rowan is so grumpy. And he makes really stupid choices. He has a lot of stuff to work through. His hesitancy, I just was like, just suck it up, boy, go to therapy. Really loved this, and I ate it up, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. Then we have Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice by Elle Cosimano. And this is the 4th book. There is a novella in between of this series, and I listened to this on audiobook. And this is not a series for everyone, I've coming to find. It is a cozy mystery series. It is impractical, it is outlandish, and it is a good time because of those things. And that's why I love it. The things that happen, I'm just like, what is going on? It's not realistic, and that's the point of it. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be goofy and silly. He is a like mystery author or cozy mystery author, whatever. And in the first book, she gets mistaken as a hit woman as she's discussing the plot of her new book with her agent. And this woman like drops a note in her purse and was like, oh, I'll give you this amount of money to kill my husband. And because of Finley's circumstances, she's went through a divorce with her ex-husband and has 2 children, and she's really struggling to get by. But she's like, I am not a hit woman. And then circumstances happen, and she finds herself in a pickle, and it just kind of continues on the adventures of that. And I love her relationship with her accountant slash babysitter, and I love the romance between her and the hot cop. And I think it's so fun. Go into it, if you're going to go into the series, go into it with like a cozy Hallmark silly goofy good time. This is not a serious series. It is fun, so don't go into it with super high expectations of it being realistic, because I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. Go into it with just like, you want something to have a good time with, and I really do love this series. I think it's just so fun. So there's that. I can't wait to see what other adventures Finley gets into. Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first book by Brandon Sanderson that I've read. It was very unique as a fantasy. I haven't read anything like it, but it was very much giving kind of like The Princess Bride in a way. It is told in a prose narration, meaning like it's told like somebody is reading you a book. Kind of like how in the Princess Bride movie that the grandpa is reading the boy the book, and there's a little asides, there's some embellishments. I really liked how unique this book was. Oh, I wanted to like it more. That being said, I didn't hate it by any means. It was interesting, but I felt like it took so long to get through because just like not a lot was going on. So pretty much Tress lives on this rock, and there are these spores, and in this world the moon or the sun or something spits out these spores, and you can't get the spores wet or they will do different things. And where Tress lives, the spores turn into vines and plants and stuff, and if you ingest it and get it wet, you will die because the spores will kill you, or the vines will kill you. So everybody is afraid of these spores, and you're also not allowed to leave the rock. However, so Tress is friends with this boy Charlie, who happens to be the Duke's son who resides on the island. The Duke sees that Charlie and Tress are getting closer and potentially have a more romantic connection. They're both 17, And therefore the Duke is like, nah, 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 I am going to bring you to island to find your future bride. And then things happen and which result in Truss having to journey off of the rock and go save the day. So she gets on this ship, then gets on a different ship, like a pirate ship, and sailing the spore sea, because the sea is not wet, it is made of spores. And like these gas bubbles is what makes the spores bubble and move for the ship to move around. And again, you can't get the spores wet or just everything will explode. And if you go into different territories of different spores, because there's I think 12 or 13 different spores, they all do different things. It's a really good coming of age story. It's a really good how experiences can help shape you as a person and help you grow and see the world in a different light. There was a lot of great little lessons in this book. However, the main reason for this book, or like the adventure for this, didn't happen until probably around the last 65 pages as to like what it was finally going on, and then it just wrapped up so quickly. That was kind of disappointing. I would have liked to have explored that more thoroughly, but we just spend a lot of time day to day on the ship. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I also don't know what I was expecting from this either. And this was my book club's pick of the month. We'll see what everybody else has discussion wise, but I just don't think prose narration is for me, or any kind of book with prose in it. They're so difficult for me to get into, to keep track of. And I'm very much like, I like a first or a third person kind of book. I really liked how different of a fantasy it was. I really loved the idea. I just feel like there was a lot of world building. Hello, future Larissa here. I really didn't think I would read Funny Story by Emily Henry as quickly as I did, but I did, and I had just like a day left to spare till the month end. So I wanted to put it in this wrap up, obviously. So this is Emily Henry's new release, Funny Story, and this follows Daphne and Miles. And funny story is the way that Miles and Daphne are connected. Daphne is engaged to Peter, and Peter breaks off the engagement for his childhood best friend Petra, who's dating Miles. So it's kind of a couple swap, if you will. Peter and Petra are like, we want to be together, we love each other actually. And then that leaves Daphne with nowhere to go. And Miles ends up knocking on the door and being like, hey, you want a roommate? And so she moves in with Miles, and they become roommates and then become friends as they are both healing from these relationships that really did them dirty. And it takes place in a kind of smaller town in Michigan, and I just loved it. I loved the vibe. Daphne is also a librarian, and I just loved seeing that aspect. And along with Emily Henry books, there's so much more to it than the romance itself. It deals a lot with relationship trauma, like your attachment styles, feeling like you're not enough, as well as kind of breaking down and looking at how their parents really kind of messed them up. Like there was some very questionable and detrimental parenting that really played a part for both of them to have these trauma responses for when things get too close and too serious. Being able to be vulnerable and opening up in that way and heal in that way too, so it doesn't affect the relationship that you actually want to work for. I love the growth that Daphne took through this. I love the growth that Miles took through this. I love the found family that happened through this, and there were so many highlights, so much underlining that I did, and I definitely could go back and reread this and find even more. It was a little bit more rom-com-y to begin with, very much kind of like People We Meet on Vacation, but the banter unmatched, kind of like Happy Place. Oh, Emily Henry knows how to write banter, and I love her for it because I love banter, and it's just so fun to see characters going back and forth so quick with these just witty responses, and I was chuckling and giggling out loud for a lot of it. Chef's kiss. Good job, Emily. You've done it again. And I talk about this in the reading vlog that's coming. Stay tuned for that. But I feel like this is one of her more, her spicy romance scenes. I feel like this one is the more spicy of them. I just don't remember her other ones having as much detail to them. Not that it's like super detailed by any means, but the spicy scenes hit. They hit good. Good job. If you really like MMCs or any characters having quality time as their love language, physical touch is a big one, and acts of service, oh my gosh, absolutely adore. I'm always just so in love with every book that she comes out with. So wanted to add that one onto this month's wrap up. All right, back to other me. And I did have a DNF this month as well. And that was The Wedding Thief by Mary Simsies. I tried reading it. I only got like 2 pages and I'm like, I can't read this. So I checked out the audiobook off of Libby, was listening to like probably the first 30 minutes of it on one of my commute, and I absolutely hated it. I could not make it through. Sarah is our main girl in here. I disliked her so much. She's so whiny, and the circumstances that lead her to be, like, I get it, but I did not like her at all. Sarah was dating or getting engaged or something to this one guy, and her sister ends up having an affair with him or something like that, and they end up getting engaged, and so Sarah and this guy break it off. And Sarah is rightfully so mad at her sister for finding this out, but she's so convinced that this guy is the love of her life. And she keeps saying, like, Mariel has done this all her life, has always taken things from Sarah, even though she's younger. Like, if there's something Sarah likes, Mariel puts herself into it, and like people seem to favor her more. But the fact that she still wants to be with this guy is insane to me. Like, they are both horrible. He did this too. It takes 2 to tango here, and it just bothered me how much she really hated her sister but still is in love with this guy. And again, she was just too unlikable for me to continue on. Couldn't do it. So I DNF'd it, I'm unhauling it, and it also inspired me to just unhaul a lot of the books that were on here that are super backlist, super old, and that I have no inclination to ever read again. So thank you for at least allowing me to just cut the cord and get rid of books that I know I will not read. There are some of the books and a DNF that I read this month. We read a lot. It was fantastic, and I'm just so happy, and I'm looking forward to getting all the books read in May. Pumped. I'm pumped for some summer sunshine and sunshine. I'm just pumped for sunshine and being outside and reading. How was your reading month? Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite reads were this month. I would love to know that, as well as subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any other bookish content such as reading vlogs, TBRs, whatever, as well as like this video. And remember to respect others, respect yourself, and do something amazing with your day. Thanks, bye!